everybody, and welcome to my, this time, not couponing video, although it is frugal in its own way. One thing that I like to do, aside from couponing to save money, on my food costs, is to use leftovers in kind of, I don't want to say unusual ways, but ways that you don't normally think of in order to make new foods that still taste good. And that is part of what I'm doing here today, as I'm standing here in a t-shirt of my husband's old baggy t-shirt, and you can't see them, but my Harry Potter fuzzy britches pajama pants, because I have chronic illnesses, which means I'm high risk, which means I am in total social distancing, self-isolation, whatever you want to call it, which is good for this video, because today I am making Schmaltz, which is a really good seasoning. You can buy Schmaltz pre-made at the store. Wegmans carries it, I know, Trader Joe's carries it, but not a whole lot of other stores. So let's go first with what Schmaltz is. Schmaltz is rendered fat. It is rendered chicken fat, and it is some of the best tasting stuff ever. It's wonderful as a seasoning, and what you do, it's really easy to make, but it takes a little while. So when you are stuck in your apartment for days, that's really the perfect time to make it, because it does take a little while. So, like I said, Schmaltz is rendered chicken fat, and it's typically used as a seasoning. Once it's rendered down, it's kind of like this gel-like consistency, but when you heat it up, it turns liquid. And you put it in, you can make soup with it, you can put it in like homemade soup or even canned soup to give it a little boost of extra flavor. You can put it on any potatoes, mashed potatoes, roasted potatoes, or roasted vegetables. You get some roasted vegetables, dribble some schmaltz on it, and it's really good. And there's just so many recipes that include schmaltz. And here's my South coming out. Any recipe that you have, because I know that there's a lot that calls for bacon grease, use schmaltz instead if you want to be kosher-ish. I'm not completely kosher. This chicken fat did not come from kosher chickens, but it obviously didn't come from a pig either. Any recipe that calls for bacon grease, you can use schmaltz in. So what you want to do really is, one chicken is not going to cut it. So what you do is, every time you make a chicken, this is about a month, maybe a month and a half's worth of chicken. Anytime you want to make a chicken, you just make sure to cut off all of the fat and the skin. You want to leave a little bit on when you're actually cooking the chicken, because the fat is where the flavor is. So if you're roasting a chicken, you want it to drip down. But because the fat is where the flavor is, that's why it makes good schmaltz. So you want to cut off the bits of excess skin and, excess fat. So, and then you just kind of melt them down on a low heat. And then you just mix them up, and then you've got your schmaltz. And let's get started, and I will show you how to make it. When you're cooking schmaltz, what you want to have is a non-stick pan. Even though it sounds like it should be a good idea, do not use a cast iron skillet. It sounds like it'd be awesome, but the metallic of the cast iron gets into the schmaltz and it completely ruins the flavor. Trust me, I've tried it. So you want to have a nice big saucepan or pan, and you kind of want to have one with high sides, and that's simply because you're about to be cooking pure fat, and it will, sparkle, I guess is the right term, or at least it's the term I knew. But it'll be sizzling and popping out, and so you kind of want high sides so you don't burn yourself with hot fat. And you want to cook it over a low heat. Don't turn the stovetop up beyond, say, a low, maybe a medium low. Turn it up any higher than that, and you're going to ruin a schmaltz, because it needs to be cooked over a low heat. So here we go. Okay, so I started cutting my onion before I realized that you might want to see how I cut the onions. So just to show you really quick, sorry about my arm there. You want to cut the onions into small pieces. So the way you do it is you cut off the short end, leaving the stem part. And then what you want to do is kind of leave the stem on, and then kind of cut. I'm actually going to leave the peel on, so that you don't cut all the way up. You just kind of cut, trying to make it like mostly up, that way. Ugh, look at that, I'm already starting to cry. when you cry, see, and this is when the peel will just come right off. When you cry, or when I cry at least, I just go and stick my head in the freezer for a second. And this part is really, this one is going to be hard for some reason. But it sounds really silly to stick your head in the freezer, but it actually does take away the little crying jag you get when you have onions. The cats just jumped on top of the trash can next to me. Anyway, so then you just take this and then you just cut these little pieces, and you've got tiny little dice once you crumple them up. The cat is literally just kind of jumping up next to me and sniffing the spice rack I have on the wall above me. She seems really fascinated by the garlic powder. Okay, so then you just cut this. Don't cut all the way up to the stem. So now you've got a whole bunch of little dicey pieces. I'll throw those away in a second. And then you just kind of just crumple it up and all the dice just kind of fall apart. So that's just an easy way of cutting. If you just need pieces of onions, that's just a really quick way of doing that. Alright, so this is, like I said, about a month and a half's worth of schmaltz. Basically, every time I cook chicken, I put it in little bags, squeezing the air out, and then put it in my handy-dandy labeled bag to put in the freezer. Go ahead and freeze it. It'll last, obviously, a long time until you've collected up enough to make the schmaltz. So it's kind of, yeah, it's basically bits of skin. So you kind of want to cut it down into 1-inch pieces, but they don't have to be perfectly square. As a matter of fact, they're probably better if they don't. If they're slightly frozen still, you could use a butcher knife, but I think that they're pretty well, yeah, they pretty well got de-thawed in the refrigerator. I didn't expect them to thaw that quickly because I took it out of the freezer and put it in the refrigerator not too long ago, but they thawed pretty quickly. But that's okay, that's why you have kitchen shears. So basically, yeah, you just snip off the pieces. Be very careful. I know how I just cut it. Pretty dangerous in the kitchen, but I live for danger. Yeah, no I don't. But, so you just basically cut all of this, just make little snips. Snips of fat and snips of skin, and then just toss them into the pan like I'm doing. By the way, one thing that we're also making today is called gribbenes, which is Yiddish for the word scraps. And it is just pretty much a byproduct of making schmaltz. Or some say you're making gribbenes and schmaltz is the byproduct. Either way, you can't make one without making the other. You are essentially making two dishes. Like I said, Yiddish, gribbenes is the Yiddish word for scraps. And basically it means it's fried chicken skin. So if you ever like to eat the skin off of fried chicken, that's basically this. And it's, you know, because once you've rendered all the fat out of these chicken pieces, you're just going to have crispy bits of chicken fat and chicken skin. And it sounds like, boy, that's just so good for you. And you know what, who cares? But, yeah, I know, I care. But gribbenes is just, they're really yummy. You can use them. Actually, what I do is, while my husband, who is not Jewish, puts like bacon bits on his salad or a baked potato, you can put in gribbenes. It's basically the same thing, only made with chicken. Kind of like the bacon grease, and schmaltz is similar. You can also put it on salads, or just pop it in your mouth like popcorn, although I would not advise you to do that very often because it is basically just crispy bits of fat, which is what makes it so yummy. You don't want to make the bits too small. I mean, you don't want to make them too big either, but don't try to make them as tiny as you can, because then, first of all, you won't have really good gribbenes, but also you won't be able to get all the fat out, because the fat has to make the piece of fat and the pieces of skin kind of have to curl up to release the fat. So if you make them too small, they're really not going to have enough, I don't know what the term is, I'm not a professional cook, room, I guess, but they're not going to be able to release the fat quite as well. Because you just want the fat, you don't want the actual skin unless you're eating the gribbenes. Sometimes you get a little piece of actual meat in there, and that's fine, in my opinion. As long as it hasn't been cooked. The important thing is that this has not been cooked. If you try to take skin, the extra fat and skin off an already cooked chicken, then you're just wasting your time because all the flavor's already dripped out of it. Why would you bother? Okay, so this is it. This is about a month and a half worth of bits of chicken skin and fat from various chickens that I've cooked for the past, say, month and a half. So now we are going to turn these kind of admittedly little gross pieces of chicken and fat into this awesome, awesome seasoning. First things, I've got to turn on the stovetop. Like I said, you don't want to turn it up too high, so I'm actually just going to turn it on to like a medium low heat. Then that's 3 on my oven. You want to put a little bit of water in it, not too much, but you want to be able to kind of draw the fat out, so you just want to put a little bit of water. Not much at all. That should be enough. I might put on more later. And let me go ahead and get the spoon. Excuse me for blocking the whole camera there. Sorry about that. Just going to go ahead and get a spoon and just kind of mix it all up. But I'm going to let this sit here for a while and let the fat start to drain out. I'm actually going to kind of spread it out so it's a flat layer that will speed up the process. Okay, so it really has been almost literally 5 minutes, and as you can see, the fat is starting to bubble up, and it's getting leached out of the skin. The water is just kind of just helping it, so I'm going to pretty much just keep stirring it. I hope I didn't put too much water in, but I think it's going to be okay. So this is what we're going to be doing for basically at least 30 minutes, possibly an hour, is to check the fat, stir, check the fat again, stir, and just keep doing that for as long as it takes. Okay, so now the fat is really starting to come out, so now's the time to add the onions. We just want to give it an oniony flavor, obviously, because it's onions. But onions just add a great flavor to anything, especially anything meat related, which obviously is Schmaltz. So we're just gonna dump them in, stir them right in there, and we're gonna, because they're gonna brown and caramelize just as well as the fat will, and that's kind of the flavor we want. I think I want to use some more. Oops, I just dropped a piece on the floor. That's okay. Okay.
Oh yeah, looks good. Starting to look like little bacon bits.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Alright, they've been cooking for about 35 minutes now. I've just turned down the heat a bit because I still think that I can get a little bit more fat out of some of these, but I don't want them to burn. So I've turned down the heat just down to 2, and I'm going to let them cook for just a little bit longer, maybe 5 or 10 more minutes. Okay, so I think we're done. I think they look pretty crispy, and I think that's about as much fat that's going to get out of them. So we're going to take the gribbiness out first, or as many as we can. We got this little thing, so let's just get those out, and I've just got a little bowl here for them. Mickey Mouse bowl. Alright, so here are the gribbiness, the little scraps of fried chicken skin, which are just so yummy, and you can sprinkle them on salads or whatever, and that's this. So now comes for the actual schmaltz. So when you make schmaltz, just like when you're making soup, you need to strain it, and for that I use cheesecloth, which you can get at craft stores or cooking stores if you don't know what cheesecloth is, and most of you do, but and for some reason, though, they do not sell it at the dollar store. I don't know why, but they don't. So, but it is just a very thin cloth that you can pour food through to strain out all the little bits. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm putting it in this clear glass there. Now, it's actually not going to be a whole lot. All of that chicken skin did not end up with a whole lot of schmaltz. And that's pretty normal, and that's why you save up as much chicken skin and fat as you can before you try to make it, because it doesn't make very much. So there's some extra gravitous there, but so now the schmaltz has gone through the cheesecloth, and wow. I'm going to cut off that spoiled piece of cheesecloth later so we can use it, the rest of it, for others. But there we go. Golden schmaltz. The liquid gold of cooking. I am kind of all sweaty from being over a hot oven for the past hour, and so I'm not going to turn the camera on my face. But I hope that you guys stay safe and stay healthy, and don't be afraid of social distancing. That's exactly what everybody needs right now. But just think of things to do, and just stay well, everybody. See you later. Bye!